we implemented iComparable, if you remembered. So yesterday we had a discussion of IEnumerable, IEnumerator, and all that. Let's go ahead now. So if we remembered, yesterday I prepared person class, and my requirement was to sort the elements of person class. Okay, so right now I written one criteria here in compare to, and on the basis of this criteria, uh, if first name is greater, then if first name is smaller, then it will be taken first, and if it is greater, it will be taken later. This was the criteria we followed. But in reality, if I want it alphabetically, then simply I will call built-in compare to method. So how I will do that? Simply return this dot first name dot, you can watch out here, it is exposing compare to, which we are going to use. Okay, so compare to, and then it will take the explicit value. So our explicit value is p1 right now. So what we'll do, p1 dot first name. That's it. So if I do like this, compare to method will sort my array alphabetically on the basis of first name. So is it working? Watch out. So let's do build. Okay, so program get executed. It will ask me how many persons you want. Let's say 3. Let's give first name. So first name is, let's say, Stuart. Then again, for second object, it will ask. So give second object. Then lastly, the third object we are requiring. So let's give third object. Like this. Okay, so we got total 3 objects lined up here, which are unsorted. Now if I call compare to method, you can watch out, you will be getting array sorted. Okay, and as usual, this is in ascending order. If I want it in descending order, you will call reverse. That already we saw yesterday. So this is how iComparable interface is helpful. Now let's move ahead. The next most important and preferable interface is IEnumerable interface. So let's understand how actually IEnumerable interface is working. Okay, so now the question will be raised, like here I written it supports for each semantics. Means what? As a programmer, I am able to write for each loop because of IEnumerable interface. For each loop is possible because of IEnumerable interface. Without IEnumerable, we are unable to use for each loop. Right. So let's see how actually this is working. Now, if you see the working sequence of this project. Okay. If you see the working sequence of this, what is the working sequence? The working sequence is like this. We got IEnumerable interface. This IEnumerable interface is containing one method, and the name of this method is getEnumerator. Okay, this getEnumerator method will do what? Get enumerator method will fix the boundary. Means what? The upper limit will be decided. Now I don't think so it is required to fix the lower limit, because always it starts with the first element. So get enumerator will decide the upper limit. Okay, so now this particular method get enumerator is knowing first element, is knowing last element. But to move from first element to last element, he requires some facility. So what get enumerator will do? Get enumerator will hire I enumerator for this. Okay, so get enumerator will hire I enumerator. Interface. Now, I enumerator interface contains total two functionalities. Like I shown yesterday, if you go to definition of I enumerator, you'll be getting two functionalities. Okay, so what is the criteria here? Get enumerator after fixing the boundary will hire I enumerator interface. Okay, and now I enumerator will move, will actually iterate in between elements which are there in collection. So how I enumerator will follow this? So there are two functionalities available in I enumerator. Okay, what are those functionalities? The first functionality in I enumerator is current property, and the second functionality of I enumerator is MoveNext method. Okay, so get enumerator has fixed the boundary. Now he hired I enumerator to do the iteration. So I enumerator for each element will be called. So internally, I enumerator will follow these two functionalities. So what is the purpose of current property? Like we said yesterday, current property will give the information about currently visiting element. Okay, so currently cursor is present on which element? That element will be returned by next is doing after visiting is finished. Move next will move the cursor from current element to next element. This is how the iteration gets followed, and that's why as a programmer I'm able to use for each loop. Okay, so I repeat, okay, so we got I enumerable interface. I enumerable interface contains one method called get enumerator. In description what we saw, I enumerable will provide for its semantics, means a simple iteration over the collection. So to do simple iteration over the collection, first I enumerable interface need to know the boundary, the last index. So get enumerator will decide the last index, okay, or the last element, and then for each element from first element to last element, I enumerator interface will be hired, and now I enumerator interface will take care of iteration. So how I enumerator will take care of iteration? With the help of current property and MoveNext method. So if you go to Visual Studio and if you try to check this, you will find all these functionalities available, right? Like if I use here I enumerable, okay. If I go to definition, you can watch out. There is a get enumerator method, okay. And what is the return type of get? I enumerator. Okay, so for each element, get enumerator will take the help of IEnumerator. And what IEnumerator is containing, it contains current property which will return the current element, and moveNext method will actually move the cursor from current element to next element. Let's see this with the example. Watch. So what I'll be doing is I will take a new project. Demo 14. Okay. Now in this, I will take a simple array because I want to see how actually IEnumerable is working. So let's take an array out here. Okay. Give some elements inside it. So right now I'm not at all interested in performing other functionalities because already yesterday we saw system.array class, and there we perform operations on it. Okay. So these are some of the elements in my array. Now, if I want to iterate this array as a programmer, directly I will be getting for each loop. So where atom in ARR, and simply I will write console.writeLine atom. That's it. Will this work? Watch. See, I'm getting the answer. So all the elements get displayed. So this is what we are doing in day-to-day life. But internally, .NET framework has implemented for each loop. So how that, IEnumerable interface. So how that IEnumerable interface get followed? So what I was telling you, we got a getEnumerator method, which is provided by IEnumerable. This getEnumerator method will fix the boundary, means the last element will be decided over here. Then to actually move the elements from first element to last element using IEnumerator, the functionality will be followed. And to do this, IEnumerator contains current property and moveNext. So let's use all in our array so that we'll understand how actually IEnumerable is working internally. Okay, so instead of displaying it using for each, what we'll do is we will follow those steps which I was telling initially. So let's call getEnumerator method for this. So I told you already what getEnumerator will do. It will fix the boundary. Now what getEnumerator is going to return? GetEnumerator is going to return IEnumerator. So instead of writing IEnumerator, I will write var here. So var, let's say enumerator. So I got enumerator lined up, and this enumerator will actually, excuse me, will actually do the iteration. Okay, and to do the iteration, enumerator will be using these two functionalities. What are those? Current property and moveNext. Okay, so let's use the loop. So while enumerator dot moveNext. Okay, so it is actually going to move the cursor, and what we will do now, we require that element. So let's print the element. So what we'll do, or no need to give message, simply give /t and will display it. How we are going to display? Using current property. So enumerator dot current. Okay, this is how for each loop will work internally. Now actually I written a loop here. It is not going to manage the loop, but still for understanding purpose, it is very difficult to write the steps again and again and again. So better to use loop. Now let's run this. If I run this, I will be getting answer, no problem. Now, as I told you, get enumerator will fix the boundary. MoveNext will actually move the cursor, and current property will print the current element. Since I written here console.writeLine. So is it actually following like this? Let's watch out. So I will simply debug this code. Okay, so the execution has begun. Execution has started from main. First array will be initialized. So in autos window, you can watch out array. The ARR reference value is null. The moment array get initialized, array ARR reference is pointing to this particular array. Okay, so I got 9 elements lined up. Now currently the value of enumerator is null because get enumerator not yet called. Let's press F10. Now you can watch out enumerator got some value because get enumerator gets called. So in enumerator, what actually we are considering two things, current property and MoveNext. So sorry, actually it will be for next part, but if you see here carefully, current is right now not assigned because I don't think so we have executed this. Okay, on the other hand, if we check out what get enumerator has fixed, get enumerator has fixed end index, and also he take the collection for iteration. Okay, so end index is right now 9, the upper boundary. Like I told you, get enumerator will fix the upper boundary. So you can watch out here, the upper boundary is fixed. Okay, now if I go ahead and press F10 again, you can watch out the members now. So currently current property has returned 1. Why so? Because the first element in my list is 1. Okay. So you can watch this out. Current property has returned 1 and this will be displayed. Now, if you see the value of index, it is right now 0 because by default, it is starting with 0th index. And he already set the upper boundary, which is 9. Okay, so current property has returned me the current element, which is 1, and it get displayed now. Next, it will move the cursor to the second element, and now you can watch out. Index value is still 0. The moment cursor gets moved, it will be 1 and the current property value will be changed the moment cursor gets moved. Okay, so if I press F10, you can watch out the index value is changed to 1 and current property value is 5. Okay. And now he is going to print the value and this process will go on, and this is how enumerator is working. So is it okay? Yes.
Yes.
So we have a demo for enumerable interface. Let's watch out. There is a method called get enumerator. Okay, and get enumerator will return the enumerator, and enumerator will actually provide the iteration. And to do the iteration, enumerator will internally using MoveNext and current. So this is how enumerable interface is working. Okay, this is how for each is working internally. So why it is possible for me to write a for each to iterate over the collection? Because of this. Internally, these things are happening. Okay. Fair enough. Now, let's move ahead. IEnumerator supports simple iteration over the collection, and to do this, IEnumerator is using MoveNext and current property, whereas IEnumerable will support the for each semantics. So IEnumerable internally using IEnumerator for iteration. So what IEnumerable is doing? IEnumerable is fixing the upper boundary. IEnumerable is identifying the last element in a collection. Okay. This is how IEnumerable is working. Okay. So we saw IComparable, we saw IEnumerable, and we taken IEnumerator internal. So we'll see IDictionary, IClonable, IList ahead. Okay. Now there will be one more situation raised where you need to use IEnumerable. Now do remember, using IEnumerable in our classes is never mandatory. It is not at all required for us to use IEnumerable interface. Okay, you may what you can say, perform this functionality without IEnumerable also, but still the functionality is available, so you may watch this out. So I'm creating one scenario for you. Let's watch. Okay, so what I got here, I got one class. Okay, and the name of this class is, let's say, student. Okay, in this student class, I got multiple members. What are those members? So what is the role of this student class? Give student information. Like, let's say I got roll number, then I got name, and I got marks. That's it. I'm not interested in members more. So student class got the implementation of all of these. Mike, student got the implementation of all of these. Now, what I will do is, I will take one more class. And the name of this class is a classroom class. This classroom class will have a collection of students. There is no relation between these two. I mean, there is no inheritance implemented in between these two. Classroom class got the section of students. And now what my requirement is, using classroom class, I want to perform operations on this student collection. Okay, see the criteria again. We got a student class. The role of student class is to provide student functionality. So when we create a student object, for that object, all the operations will be done on roll number, name, and marks via student class functionality. Okay. I got another class lined up called classroom class, and in this classroom class, I got collection of students. Now my requirement is, using this classroom class, I want to perform operations on this section. And for that purpose, I will require a IEnumerable. Now I told you already, for this example, It is never mandatory for any example. It is never mandatory to use IEnumerable. You may go for your own functionality as well, but still IEnumerable is available. The functionality is available. So let's go ahead and see this. Okay, so let me take the new project in same. And let's name it as IEnumerable demo. Let's set this as a startup project. Okay. Now, as I told you, I will be taking two classes out here. So first class will be student class. Student.cs. Let's take roll number, name, and marks. Okay. Let's write some of the constructors. I will write both in single. Okay, so let's provide some default value like roll number. I want to initialize with 1000. Then I want to initialize name as ABC. Fair enough. And we'll initialize marks to 100 or maybe 99.99, something like this. Okay, let's assign it. So this dot roll number equals to roll number. Then this dot name equals to name. Next, this dot marks equals to marks. Fair enough. Okay, and to provide these values outside, let's override the toString method. Okay, so toString, and through this I will represent single object in string format. So let's specify roll number as roll. The next we got name. I guess instead of writing labels, we'll just simply display it in single line. That will be better for me because we got a collection. I don't think so we got a single object. So better I'll follow this format. So roll number, then name, and then lastly we have a mark. Fair enough. So we got student class lined up. Okay. Let's take another class, classroom class. So I'll be taking here classroom class. Okay. In this, I will take the collection of student class. Okay. Let's initialize this with a constructor. Okay. So I will do one thing. I will just initialize array here. Okay. And what this constructor will do, it will take size of the array. So students equals to new student size. Fair enough. And to initialize this array, we will call the method called initialize array, a student array, more appropriate. Okay, let's define this here. So initialize student array. Okay, let's initialize the array here. Okay, so already student array is initialized, and now I mean the size is fixed. Now let's initialize the array. So how you are going to initialize the array? You may take these values from user. It's up to you. So this will take one parameter, which is a student's reference, I guess. Or let's do one thing. Let's do it here only. That will be better. So for let I equal to 0 and all that. So students dot length. Okay, let's go ahead and initialize it. So what you will do, you will simply accept it, like enter marks. This is not a good way of doing it, but still right now I just want to explain you the interface INumerable. So let's focus on that. So integer roll equals to convert dot to int 32. Later I will correct it. Let's take here console.readline. Okay. Next, make a copy twice. Okay, so we got a roll number. Now let's take a name, string name. And it is not required to convert. So let's remove convert. And lastly, we'll take marks. Okay, so we'll take marks. So double marks equals to convert dot to double. Okay, so we got all three values for the object. Now let's initialize array over here. So what we will be doing, student of I equals to new student, and let's pass on these three values. Like first we'll pass roll, then we'll pass name, and then we'll pass marks. Okay. Capital. Okay. So we initialized array. So now my target is to display this array. So how I'm going to display this array? Can anybody tell me? Yes. Hello. Are you there, guys? हेलो.
पहले हम अरे डॉट ऐड मेथड यूज करके सारे स्टूडेंट्स वो अरे में डाल देंगे और फिर उसके बाद फॉर ईच लूप.
Already we added elements, right? We got here students array, and we added those elements, right? So my array is ready. Now the point is, I want to display those elements. So is it possible for me to display those elements here? So what is the problem here now? See, this classroom class is not at all knowing what is student, because there is no relation between those two classes. So for classroom class, there is a problem of displaying student elements, because we don't have any idea about student type. And according to the, what you can say, theory, if you are implementing IEnumerable interface in classroom, IEnumerable interface will iterate the student collection in classroom, and accordingly the iteration functionality gets followed. This is what the scenario. But what I told you already, we can do this without IEnumerable also. So that is what I'm asking. Forget about IEnumerable right now. I got a collection of students. This array is initialized. Okay, this array is already initialized and it values. So I want to display this collection. So how I'm going to display this? Any idea? Yes? Any idea? Yes? Any idea? This display method will call the public method of student class to display student members. This is the simple criteria, because we all are knowing public members are available anywhere. So this toString method I can access. What this toString method will do, it will tell me how to display student. Okay, so what I will do, in the display of classroom, I will be calling this toString method. Will it work? Let's see. So here I'll be using for each loop. In place of where, we'll write student, let's say S in collection. So our collection is students. Okay, and simply I will write console.writeLine S. Finish. Sorry, I return it as a string. Or let's do one thing. Let's keep it as void right now, because right now I just wanted to show you it is possible without IEnumerable. Okay, so what the display method of a classroom class has done, display method of classroom class has called the public method of student class to display student object. So our array is a collection. So we put the for each loop here. One by one, I will get individual student, and to display that student, I will take a help of toString method. So now, like you all are knowing, it is not required for me to write like this. Okay, because toString will be accessed automatically. Okay, but in case of display, let's say I return here display method. So in that case, I need to write s.display. Fair enough. Okay, so what was the scenario? Let's watch. The scenario was, we got a student class. The role of student class is to provide the information about student object. Okay, we got another class, classroom class. In this classroom class, we got a collection of students. Now here the problem is, classroom class don't have any idea about student type, because there is no relationship between in these two classes. So classroom class is unable to iterate this student array. This is the problem. Okay, so to iterate this student array, there are two solutions. Either you will use IEnumerable interface, which will be telling classroom class, I am there, I will help you in iterating this student array. Or second option, I will do it by myself. How? By calling the public method of student class in classroom class, because I know the principle. Though there is no relation between these two classes, public functionality of student class are available in classroom class. Okay, so without enumerable, I'm showing you the first criteria. Okay, so let's watch out whether it is working or not. So what I will do is, let's create classroom class object. Okay, the moment I will write here default constructor, what will happen? Sorry, we we took the size, I guess. Here I took a size as a parameter, so let's take that size from you, user. So what will write? Console.writeLine, how many students you want. Okay, and we'll accept this size from it. So int, let's say size equals to convert dot to int 32 in bracket console dot readline. We accepted the size. Let's pass this size to the constructor. Okay, the moment I will create the constructor, what will happen? Control will, the moment I will create this object, the control will jump to the constructor. Okay, over here. Now in this constructor, what I done, on the basis of size, first I initialize this array. Okay, so array is initialized, and to place the values in this array, I called a method called initialize student array, because I want it as a dynamic. Okay, so dynamically I accepted all the values from the user, and accordingly the student array will be initialized. Okay, and then after accepting all those elements, it will come back here. Okay, so classroom class will initialize student array, and then to display this collection of students, we will be calling display method. So what we'll do, classroom reference dot display. Okay, so will this be possible? Let's watch. How many students you want to enter? I want, let's say, 2 students. So let's enter the roll number, let's say 11. Let's enter the name. Some name will give. Then let's enter the marks. Then let's enter another roll number. Let's enter name. And let's enter some marks. Okay, if I press enter, fair enough, I will get the answer. You can watch out, students get displayed. So what we achieved here, using classroom class object, we successfully iterated student class array. Okay, and to do this, right now we used a public method of student class in classroom class. This is first way of doing it. Now what is the another way? Since we are in IEnumerable collection, since we are in IEnumerable interface, to display this collection, you may hire IEnumerable interface. Okay, so what is the problem for classroom class? The problem for classroom class is he is not knowing how to iterate student array. Okay, and this can be done with the help of 2 ways. The first way is shown already. We will be using the public methods of student class, and those public methods will provide the facility of displaying. On the other hand, you can do this with the help of IEnumerable interface as well. Okay, so is this clear? Yes.
So
Yes, sir.
Okay, so do remember, once again, I repeat my statement. IEnumerable interface is never mandatory. Not IEnumerable, any interface. Any collection interface is never mandatory. You can do this by yourself as well. But if you use those collection interfaces, you will get the built-in facilities. Like here, if I'm not using IEnumerable interface, I need to fetch the public methods of student class, and accordingly, with the help of those public methods, I'm able to display the members. But on the other hand, if I hire IEnumerable interface here, what will happen? It's now IEnumerable's responsibility to go to those public methods and access the members and accordingly show those members with the help of classroom class. Okay, so is it fine? Yes.
yes, okay.
So now let's do this with IEnumerable interface. So what I will do now, I'm not going to write display. Let's see how to do this using IEnumerable. Okay, so my array is initialized, no problem. Now the requirement is I want to display this array. So to display this array, let's hire IEnumerable interface. I already told you how IEnumerable is working internally. Now, definitely we require non-generic version of IEnumerable. So, which namespace will be including system.collections. Okay, let's use here IEnumerable. See, it is showing now. So, I'm inheriting the properties of IEnumerable interface. Let's go ahead and implement this interface. Like we all are knowing already, this IEnumerable interface is containing one method called getEnumerator. Okay, so here it is implemented over here. So what getEnumerator is going to do? GetEnumerator is going to return the IEnumerator. Okay, so what we will do, we will call getEnumerator for our array now. So return array, array. The collection name is student dot getEnumerator. That's it. Okay, and then in program class I'll be able to do this. Now this display is not available, so what I need to do, I already prepared a reference, so let's use for each. CR1. Okay, and console.writeLine will write X because we know toString is overwritten. Okay, now if I build this, see, it is succeeded. Now consider one scenario, like I return this statement and I have not implemented this. Okay, I have not implemented this. So this classroom class reference is trying to iterate student. Okay. Now if you build this, you will get an error. Now if you see this error carefully, what it is suggesting you. See, for a statement cannot operate on variables of type classroom. Because classroom does not contain a public definition of get enumerator. So you can watch this out. As per the framework is concerned, framework will always suggest me to implement IEnumerable. Okay. You can see this error. For a statement cannot operate on variables of type classroom because classroom does not contain a public definition of get enumerator. Now, why he is saying like this? Because he don't have any knowledge of student type. What we got in classroom, we got a collection of students. Problem for classroom is how to iterate this, and who will help him? IEnumerable. This is the scenario. Okay, so let's implement this. Okay. And now again we will build this. So build succeeded. Let's run it. So how many students you want to enter? Let's say again 2. Let's enter the roll number 11. Again same data I will enter. Roll number 2. Then some name will do and some marks. And it is able to show me. Okay, so it is up to you what to do, because I shown you both options. So you can either implement IEnumerable or you may do directly by using public methods of student class. Okay. So is it fine? Yes. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's move ahead. So this is all about IEnumerable interface. Now it's a time to start with actual categories. So if you remembered yesterday, we saw total 2 main categories. Let me show that slide. Yes, this one. So there are total 2 main categories: basic collections and advanced collections. Under basic collections, we got system.array class, okay, which we saw already. Now it's a time to introduce non-generic collections and generic collections classes. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with non-generic collections. Okay. So what are non-generic collection classes? Non-generic collections provide set of built-in classes to create and perform the operations on elements. Actually, to create a container, I mean to say. Okay. So non-generic collections will provide you built-in classes through which you will be able to perform the operations on elements with the help of built-in facilities. Since those are built-in classes, somebody has already implemented the functionality for me, and I will use that ready-to-use functionality. Okay, like array class. So now, if you consider non-generic collection classes, in non-generic collection classes, the main common point is the data type considered for each element. The data type considered for each element is object. Okay, it's what? Let's say I got a collection here. We'll be learning the classes now. So let's say I got a class lined up here, for example, array list. Okay, so if I create array list class instance, it will look like this. Learning this ahead. So right now I just want to clear. Okay. This collection array list class will provide you built-in method called add. So what I will do, array list, sorry, it will not be array list, a1 dot add, let's say 10. a1 dot add, let's say 20. So right now I'm just taking array list as an example. Do remember, if you take any class in this category, there are multiple classes available in non-generic collections. If you take any class in this category, if you are doing any specific element, for example, here, for me, the type of 10 is integer, the type of 20 is integer. But when actual elements get stored in this particular object, the type will be considered as object. Okay, so yes, for me the type is integer, but when actually element gets stored, the type of element is object. Okay, the type of element will be considered as object, and this will be the case for all the classes. So what are the classes available in non-generic collection? We'll see ahead. Okay. Yes. So main point for non-generic collections is the data type. When you are storing your type of collection into non-generic collection class object, then the type of each element will be considered as object by default. Okay. So by default, the type for each element placed in collection class is object, like I told you. To use any collection class or interface, we need to include a namespace system.collection. This is important. For array class, I don't think so we require to enter any namespace. Directly, it is present in system class. But if you want to use any class in non-generic category, you need to include a namespace system.collection. So if you remembered, right now we saw the demo of IEnumerable, and which interface I used? Non-generic IEnumerable interface. So which namespace I included? System.collections. And what are the few examples? Array list, stack, queue, hash table, and sorted list. Okay, so let's start working with this. Now, if you consider the array list is a dynamic array. Means what? The size of array list will be dynamic. So you can dynamically grow the size of array list. You may dynamically shrink the size of array list. So it is similar to dynamic array. The other name for array list is dynamic array. Okay, array list supports indexing. What does it mean? With the help of index, I am able to access any element present in array list. So indexing is possible like array. So let's see what are the facilities this array list class is providing. Okay, so let's go ahead and see the practical implementation of it. So I'll take a new demo here. Demo 15. Okay. Now, if I consider here the namespace, which namespace I will be requiring? System.collection. So let's include the namespace system.collection. And now all the classes are available. So if you see array list, if I go to definition, see here, somebody has already implemented the functionalities of array list for me. This array list is implementing multiple interfaces. Now you can watch out, whatever the interfaces we discussed, those names are present here, like iList, iCollection, IEnumerable, iClonable. Okay. Okay. Now, if you see the properties, there are two main properties in this category: capacity and count. Capacity and count. So let's see what are the values for this. So what I will do is I will create one ArrayList instance and simply I will print size and capacity. Console.writeLine size is, let's specify a1 dot count. Count property will give me the size, whereas capacity property will give me the capacity. Like this. Okay. So right now there is no element available in array list. So definitely both values will be 0. Let's watch. So if I run this, size is 0, capacity is 0. No problem. Now let's add one element in it. For example, I will write a1 dot add. Now see, if I want to add the element dynamically, then there is a method available called add. Now where the add will add the element at the end. Okay, at the end in array list, if you want to add the what you can say element, then you will use add method. Like let's say there are 5 elements in my array list. I want to add 6th element. So where the 6th element will be added at 6th position if I use add method. Okay. So a1 dot add 10. Okay. So now there is some element added in array list. Now let's watch out the size and capacity. If I run this, you can watch out the size is 1 and capacity is 4. Now how this 4 is taken? 4 is a by default value. Okay. So in the multiple of 4, the capacity get increased. Okay. Let's watch. Means what? Till 4 elements, capacity will remain as it is 4. Okay. Now you can watch out. The size is 2, capacity is 4. Like this. So let's add 4 elements now. Okay. Let's run. Watch. Both are 4. So by default, when we create an array list, if elements are not present, the capacity is 0. If you are started adding the elements, till element 4, the capacity is 4. Now let's add 5th element in it. Okay. If I add 5th element, you can watch out, the capacity is doubled. It is 8. Okay. So the capacity get increased in the multiple of 4. And obviously the size or the count is nothing but the total number of elements present in your array list. So this is how capacity and count relationship is. Okay. Now let's go ahead and see the other functionalities. Okay. So I'm not interested in showing those integer collections. Let's go ahead and use class type of collection in this. So let me create a simple class. Any class you may take here. I will take same student. Okay. In this, again, same functionalities are there. So I guess I will take that student class from the previous example, right? Program.cs, student.cs. Okay, so let me copy this functionality as it is, because there is no change in this class. Okay, so I got roll number, I got name, I got marks, I got constructor, and I got toString. No problem. Now let's create a collection using this. Okay, so initially we'll make it dynamic, and then we'll start using other methods as well. Okay, like let's ask the question, like how many elements you want to enter initially. Okay, how many elements you want to enter. So initially, let's say I will take that in size. So integer size equals to same, convert dot to int32, console dot readline. Okay. Next, let's use for loop and start adding the elements in it. So for I equals to 0, I less than size, and I plus plus. Okay, let's start adding these many elements in array list. How you will do? Using add method, one by one will be adding it. But before that, we should have that object. So let's start accepting those values. Okay, like again, I will copy the same, I guess. That will be better for me. This one, roll number, name, marks. So already I accepted, let's say, roll number, name, marks, and now let's create the object of the student. So student object equals to new student, and let's pass on these values like roll number, name, and marks. That's it. So we got a student object lined up. Now let's start adding this student object in this array list, which we prepared already. So what we'll do, a1 dot add student object, because student object will represent this object present on heap. Agree. So our array list is prepared, the simple one. Let's go ahead and display the members. So I will give message students are, and then accordingly we'll display it using for each. So how will you use for each here? Student, S capital, student atom in. Let's use the collection array list A1. Okay, and then we'll write simply console.writeLine, or maybe, okay, let it be enter. Okay, so save this and run it. So how many elements you want to enter? Let's say 2. Let's specify 101 atom 56.67 102 Stuart 67.78, and it will show me the collection. No problem. So this is straightforward like array. Okay, so we prepared array list. We placed elements in array list one by one. Okay. Now there is something called insert method available. Now what this insert method is doing, spike. What this insert method is doing? Watch. So to add the element, we got add range, and we got insert. See, insert. Now what this insert is doing? It insert an element into a array list at specified index. Since you need to tell the position. Okay, at what position you want to enter it. And on the basis of this position, the element will be added in between. Like we keep on saying, collection classes provides the functionality of adding the elements in between, in the middle. So let's watch out. Okay, so this insert method requires index. So what we'll do is we'll take this index from user. So what we'll say, at what position you want this element to insert. Okay, so let's ask him the position. Accordingly, we'll take the index. So index will be accepted from the user. Okay, and then we'll write here index, and right now I'm not accepting it from the user. Simply I will give you a student object by giving values. So new student, let's provide some values. Which values will be providing? Let's say 103, comma, let's give some name, for example Mary, and let's specify some marks, for example 78.89. That's it. So what this insert will do, whichever the index you will be giving, at that index position, this object will be inserted. Okay. And then again we'll display it. So what we'll say here now, students after insert R. So this will be keep on changing. So let's run it. Okay, how many elements you want to enter? Let's say 3. Let's enter the roll number for the first one, 1, then name, marks, second one, name, marks, third one, again name, let's specify the marks. That's it. Now I got total 3 students here. You can watch out. Okay, and I called insert method. And what I told you, using insert method, you will be able to insert the element in between. So let's say in between first student and second student, I want to insert. Okay, in between roll number 1 and roll number 2, I want to insert this third one. So what will be the position for me? 1, because index number starts from 0. So at position 1, means at second position, I want this student. So if I press 1, see here, this Mary record get inserted at first position. So this is how you will be able to insert in between. Okay, now there is one more method available called add range. Okay, now what is add range? Let's say I got a collection of array and I want to insert this array directly in array list. So in that case, I will use add range method. Okay, I got a collection of array and I want to insert this array in array list, then I will use add range. So what we'll do now, let's make a comment for this. Okay. What I want to do is I want to insert this in student array first. So what I will do, one student array. Okay. And as usual, it is initialized with size. So I guess I need to put this statement below after accepting this, like this. And I will insert all this in student array. So what I will do, students equals to new, sorry, students of I equals to new student, and then we will, or simply will assign this object. I'm sorry, this is already done, student OB. Okay, so what I'm doing, on the basis of size, I'm going to initialize student array. Okay, and what is the requirement? I want this student array as a array list. So what I will do, a1 dot add range. This is how you will use add range, and what you need to provide, collection of elements. So my collection is students. Okay, let's save this and run it again. So I don't think so any change will happen in answer. You can watch out. Let's say there are two elements I want. And I will get an answer. This is another way of doing it, right? Like let's say I got a total, what you can say, 5 elements already, and then I'm calling add range, then also it will work, no problem. Okay, so add range will add the collection into array list. Add will add the element at the end, and insert will add the element in between. This is how you will create a array list. So three facilities you got: add, add range, and insert. Next, now there is one method available. One more. Like let's say I got a array list, and in some circumstances there is a need. Like I want part of array list. I lined up student array, and in that student array, I want part of array list. Means I want reverse process. Now what we done? We created student array and we added that student array in array list. Now part of array list I want in student array. So will this be possible? Which method array list will provide? That we are going to see now. Let's watch out. So if you go to definition, you can watch out. There is one method available, and the name of that method is getRange. You can watch out. So if you read the description of this getRange, what getRange is doing, it returns array list which represent subset of elements in array list. Okay, this getRange method will return the subset of existing array list as a array list. Okay, this also will be possible. So let's work with it. Call getRange. So I added the elements here, and now I will call getRange method. So what I will do, a1 dot getRange. Now here, if you realized, we are just checking these methods and we are using it. It is not required for us to think about the logic, like how add range logic is working. I'm just interested in the functionality, what add range is doing. If I use add range in my program, which functionality I will be getting. Are we thinking about how it is implemented? No, because somebody has already implemented this functionality for us. Okay. Quite similar to this, let's use getRange now. So let's say array list is already formed, and now I want to call a getRange. So what getRange is going to return? A part of array list. Now that part will be decided on the basis of index and count. Okay. So index means starting point, and from that starting point, how many elements you want in the subset will be decided on the basis of count. So let's do one thing. Let's take those values from user. So I already get a statement here. So let me copy that. Okay. Just will modify the message. Enter the index. Okay. So we accepted the index. Quite similar to this, we'll enter the position. So enter the position. Okay, and let's pass this to getRange. That's it. Okay, so what this getRange will do now? getRange will return me the part of array list. So let's take here one more array list. For example, resultant array list I'm taking, and this resultant array list will be the part of this A1 array list, which we already taken. So let's print this as well. Part of array list is. Okay, give the same message. Part of array list is, we are displaying here resultant. That's it. So let's save this and run it. Okay, how many elements you want to enter? Let's say 5. Let's enter the elements 1. Let's give some proper names like Adam. Then 2. 3. Okay, 4. And 5. Last one. Okay. That's it. I got these 5 elements in my array list. Now what I want part of array list. And how I that want? In my collection, let's say I want Mary first, then David, and then Stuart. These 3 I want. Subset. So is it possible for me to give subset? Yes. So first he will ask you for an index from means you need to tell the starting point. So what is the starting point? This second record, Mary's record. At what position it is? First index. So I will write here 1. The next, in fact, it is a count. So from this position, how many elements you want? So I want 3. Total, how many elements you want? 3 from this. So I will write 3. And you can watch out, it is returning the part of array list. 2, 3, 4. 3 elements get returned. Okay, so this is how you will call getRange. Quite similar to this, there are other facilities also available which you can watch out. So is it okay? Yes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's move ahead and see the other class as well. Okay, array list. Right now we learned array list. So array list is a kind of dynamic array. In other words, the size of array list can grow and shrink dynamically, which we saw already. Array list has two main properties, count and capacity. So I shown already. So capacity will be increased in the form of in the multiples of 4. Initially, if there is no element in your array list, the capacity and the count, both values will be 0. The moment you will insert the element in array list, by default capacity is 4. And as usual, count represents the total number of elements in your array list. Okay, if your count is 4, then capacity will also be 4. The moment you will insert fifth element, the capacity will be doubled. It will be 8. Okay, which we saw already. The next, the elements stored in array list are not in sorted order. This is important. Okay, and also these may be duplicated. I can enter same record twice. This is possible. Okay, so in case of array list, elements, so if you want to sort the element, again you need to implement iComparable, like we saw this in array class, if you remember. So to call the sort method, you need to implement iComparable interface. Okay, and also those values may get duplicated, so duplicates are allowed in case of array list. Then array list supports indexing, means by using index you will be able to access the elements present in array list. Okay, I got a very small question for you guys. Just watch out. What I told you, by default, the type of each element is object, right? So right now we are displaying this with for each loop. There is no problem coming. But now let's say I want to display this using for loop. Do you think it will be feasible to use for loop here? Let's see. So already, let's say I'm preparing array list and I want to display this array list. And how I'm going to display? Using for loop. So how to display? Let's watch. For int I equals to 0, I less than. Now see why for loop is possible, because indexing is there. Using index, you will be able to access the element present in array list. Okay, so I less than a1 dot count. The count property will return the size and I plus plus. And here I will write console dot write line a1 of I dot. Okay, a1 of I. Do you think this will work? Yes. Do you think this will work? See, watch out. I'm executing it. How many elements you want to enter? Let's say 2. Given a roll number as 1. Let's say Adam 67.78. 2. Stuart maybe 78.89. It is showing. No problem. Why so? Because I override toString here. Okay. Now let's say instead of toString, here I am using display method. Instead of toString, I am using display method. So let's create a copy of this. Instead of toString override, we will simply call it as display. That's it. Control S. Now here, what I need to do? I need to call display explicitly. And if I use dot, you can watch out, display is not available. Why so? Because, yes, are you getting the problem, guys? Hello, are you there?
Yes, sir.
So please try to tell me the solution of it. Here, I want to display the members of array list using this display method. I want to call display method here. So how I'm going to call display method here? Any idea, any guesses? Yes? Hello? Any idea? Any guesses?
We can use the toString method.
I don't want to use toString. That is what I said. I commented toString because toString is working perfectly fine. I want to use the public functionality of student class to represent the elements in array list. So what I need to do here, do remember what is the type of A1 by default? Array list. And I don't think so array list will provide
Sir,
me this display.
I meant to typecast it.
Yes. So you need to typecast this array list in student. Okay. So what you will do? Let's typecast this in student, and then you will be able to access the public functionality. Okay. In some cases, what will happen? Public properties and public methods need to be accessed using array list. So in that case, this is how you will do it. Now it is exposing display. Watch, because we typecasted A1 into student. I know this is bit, what you can say, it is not good. It is what you can say bad as per the programming is concerned, because we are simply converting array list type into student. But if I use for each loop, it will be helpful for me. So you can think about for each now, how for each loop is reducing my efforts. See, I'm getting the answer, no problem. Okay, so this was remaining, that's why I came back. So array list supports indexing, means if I write here like console.writeLine A1 of 0 will work. It will return the first element like array. You all are knowing it. Okay. Next. Now the next two classes are stack class and queue class. Now I guess you all are already knowing the principles of these two, right? Like stack class, stack principle is last in first out. Means when the element gets stored in stack, the element gets stored in last in first out format. Whereas in queue, the elements get stored in first in first out format, right? Like if you see an example for this, like if I draw a stack, how the stack will be? Something like this. The one end is always fixed, the downward is fixed, let's say. And when I keep on inserting the elements, how those elements will be inserted? Upwards. Like here, if I insert the first element, let's say 10, this is how 10 will be. Now if I want to insert 20, let's say, so how 20 will be? This is how it will be. So if I want to insert 20, the 20 will come at bottom and 10 will be at the top. like this. Okay. Similarly, if you enter third one, and this is how the last in first out order get followed, right? Okay, so if I enter 30, it will be like this. First in, first out. Okay, like this. So at the time of removal, 10 will be destroyed first. First in, first out. Sorry, last in, first out. So 30 will be destroyed. I'm sorry. This is wrong. I'm really sorry. It will not be first in, first out. It will be last in, first out. So these elements need to be modified. So how it will be? Last in, first out. So 10 remains as it is and 20 will be at the top. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Last in, first out. Okay. So 10 remains as it is at the bottom. Okay. So what is last in, first out? So right now last in is 30. At the time of removal, 30 will be removed. This is last in, first out principle. Okay. So first 30 will be removed, then 20 and then 10. Or you may put it in reverse also, first in, last out. So who will first win? First in 10 and 10 will be removed at the last. This is the principle of stack. On the other hand, if you consider Q, the first one which I was showing was first in, first out. So what is first in, first out? The element which get inserted first will be removed first. Okay. So how it will be? So this part is, let's say, for stack. Let's take a Q part now. Okay. So how it will be? Okay. So the principle, this is for stack. Okay. And what is the principle of stack? Last in, first out. Last in, first out. Okay. And this is for Q. We are discussing. And for Q, the principle is first in, first out. Okay. Okay. Let it. First in, first out. Now, here, if I'm entering 10, this is how it will be. Now, if I enter 20, it will be like this: 20, 10. If I enter 30, 30, 20, and 10. You can watch out, first in, first out. So 10 comes first, so 10 will be removed first. Right? There are two ends available in case of Q. So in case of Q, both ends are open, whereas in case of stack, one end is closed. Okay, so let's say this is the fixed boundary, the last one, and this is the open part of it. So if I'm removing the element, I will remove like this. From this end, it will be removed. Okay, like this. So if I want to take out 10, this will come like this. And as usual, I'm inserting from this side. So insertion will be done from this end, and removal will be done from this end. So one end is closed. In case of Q, both ends are open. Okay, so insertion will be done from this particular end. Okay, and the removal will be done from this end. Something like this. Okay, first in, first out. So both ends are open in case of Q, whereas in case of stack, one end is fixed, closed. One end is open. So from the open end, we will do both insert and delete. Whereas in case of Q, element get inserted from one end and removed from other end. Now there are names for these ends, right? So from a rear end, you will insert it, and from front end, you will remove it. So yes, there is a name given here called a rear end. Okay, and there is a name given over here also, which is front end. Okay. So if you want to insert the element will be inserted from the rear end, and it will be removed from front end. So it is first in, first out. Whereas in case of stack, both insertion and removal will be done with open end, and one end is closed. That's why it follows last in, first out. So last in element is 30, so it will be removed first in this case. In this case, 20 is the first element, so 20 will be removed first. So is it okay? Yes?
Yes.
So I guess you already learned these data structures in case of your academics. Some people, those who done computer related course. So just watch out. In stack class elements, in stack class elements are stored in which order? Last in, first out, like I said. Whereas in case of Q, the order is first in, first out. Okay. Now these are the built-in classes we'll be getting in non-generic collections. Okay. So for stack, the built-in methods which are main are push, pop, and pick. If I want to insert the element from this end, there is a built-in method introduced called push. Whereas if I want to remove the element from the same end, there is a built-in method introduced called pop. So push will insert, pop will remove. And there is one more important method called pick. So what pick will do? Pick and pop doing the same thing, except pop is physically removing the element. Pick will just return that element. Okay, so pop will remove the topmost element and return it. Pick will simply return the topmost element. Pick is not going to remove it. Okay, quite similar to this. In case of Q also there are methods like NQ, DQ, and pick. Again, what NQ will do, like push, NQ will insert the element in a queue from rear end. DQ will remove the element from the queue, and obviously it is from which end? Front end. Okay, so you can watch this out. Like here, if you are inserting, NQ will be used. If you are removing, DQ will be used. This is what the scenario. Okay. So I guess you may try this out for some cases. Like here, we already got a student class. Let's try this within 2 minutes. Okay. Let's take one more class. Stack operations. Okay. Okay. So in case of stack operations, what I will be doing is I will take the collection of the student. Okay. So let's watch this out. First, we'll take a main method in it, like public void, public static void main. Fair enough. This is the starting point. Okay. Let's start taking the collection. So first we'll take a object of stack class. So we require only system.collections. Generic is not yet discussed. So we'll take system.collections as a namespace. Now let's take stack as stack1 equals to new stack. Okay, and we keep on inserting the elements. Stack1 dot push. Then watch out, there is a push method. Let's start pushing the student element in it. So roll number is, let's say, 1. The name is Adam. Right now I'm just taking it hard coded values. You may take these values from user if you want. Okay, next, stack1 dot push student. Let's specify some values out here like 2, Stuart, and then we will do this. Let's add one more. Actually, copy paste I need to do. Okay. Free. Okay. So we taken few elements in this. Now let's go ahead and display it. So again, I will use for each. Like here, the type is student, and the collection is stack1. Okay, student as capital. Okay, now console.writeline atom.display. I guess I removed that toString, so I'm calling display. Let's run. So fair enough, you can watch out. It is last in, first out. So which is the last element we inserted? The third record, which is Mary, and you can find out it is at the top. Okay, last in, first out. Okay, on the other hand, if you use other methods of stack, like here, if I use pick, watch out what pick will return. Topmost element. So topmost element is, okay, we'll directly give that. By calling pick. So stack1 dot pick. So pick will return me the topmost element. Let's watch whether it is returning or not. So see, the topmost element is demo15.student. So what is the problem here? It is giving me the class object, but I want contents inside the object. So what I need to do now? Let's open that toString, which is required here. Okay, let's run it again now. Error. What is the problem? Display I called here, it is not present because I commented. Build. Successful. Let's run. Now you can watch out the topmost element. See, 3 Mary 78 8.89. So this element is still there and it is returning the topmost element. And if you want to check, you will simply display this below. So what I want to prove here is pick will return the topmost element and will not remove it. On the other hand, in place of pick, if I use the method called pop, then what will happen? It will remove the element, it will remove the topmost element, and it will remove that from the list. So let's change the message like removed element is stack1 dot pop. Okay, and let's say we'll display this over here also. Okay, so original stack first will be displayed, then removed element will come into the picture, and finally again we will check whether it is actually removed or not. So let's run it. See, you can watch it. Okay, so initially total 3 elements are there. The topmost third element get removed and 2 elements are still there. Okay. Now, most important part, stack is not supporting indexing. Stack indexing is not there. Okay, so if I'm trying to do this, let's say console.writeLine stack1 of 0. Will this be allowed? Let's see. Build. I will get an error, and what it is showing, cannot apply indexing with stack. Okay, so both stack and queue are not supporting indexing. On the other hand, we saw already ArrayList was supporting indexing. So in ArrayList, you will be able to access the element with the help of index. In case of stack, this is not possible. Okay, so both stack and queue are not supporting indexing. Okay, so you if you want to see the details, you may go to definition and pick up the any method and use it. Okay, it's up to you. So is it clear? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you may try for queue class, and tomorrow we'll be starting with hash table and whatever the remaining classes. Okay, so I'm disconnecting the call. Thank you so much. Have a nice day ahead.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you.